You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. All right, welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, and as always, my co-host is clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, yoga instructor, my sister, Tara O'Neill. Hi, Tara.
Hello, hello, hello.
In today's episode, we are thrilled to welcome Mary Beth Schrudder, a spiritual and transformational life coach and founder of Day One Life Coaching. DayOneLifeCoaching.com. After spending decades in the corporate world and battling her own struggles with addiction, whether it alcohol, food, or toxic relationships, Mary Beth has turned her life around using spiritual recovery techniques. Now she's helping others heal their addictions and transform their lives. Mary Beth is also the creator of Addiction Recovery with Laws of Attraction and an international best-selling author. She shares her insights and expertise through her podcast, Spiritual Transformation with Mary Beth, where she explores spiritual uplifting, healing, and recovery. Today, we're so excited to dive into her journey, her unique recovery tools, and hopefully many of you listeners will be able to learn how to apply the law of attraction to help heal and manifest your life into freedom and fulfillment. Now, let's get started. Mary Beth, welcome aboard.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're
Absolutely
thrilled. This is right up our alley. The mind, body, spirit. It really has to be holistic in these really deep healing transformation situations. So thank you. I would love to just go right into it. Let's talk about the law of attraction. Can you explain what that is to some of our viewers? And we know of manifestation now, it's pretty mainstream, but how are we getting it a little bit wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, for anyone who's not familiar with it, everything's energy, everything vibrates, and we're actually vibrational beings. And most of us don't realize we're always attracting. It's not something that we turn on or turn off. It's always going on. We're either attracting things to us that we desire or things that we don't desire. So a lot of us are just living the law of attraction by default, and what I like to teach people, I'm a law of attraction coach also, and I like to teach people how to use the law of attraction deliberately to really learn. And there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of misconceptions about it. So I like to teach it so that they realize, okay, the law of attraction does work. I was just doing it wrong. So mainly anything that we focus on, we're going to attract to us, whether it's for better or for worse. So there's a good example. Like I used to think, here's a great myth. Here's like one that changed my life because it was like not connecting the dots with me, even though I've been studying law of attraction since 2006. So I used to think, well, okay, I was attracting into my life in relationships. I was attracting liars, cheaters, narcissists. And I'm like, well, if we attract what we are, what does that mean? Because I'm not a liar. I'm not a cheater. I'm not a narcissist. So that was not connecting the dots with me. And it made me start to question everything about the law of attraction are you guys familiar with Greg Braden?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a huge fan. I was watching one of it was a really old YouTube, like he had a mullet going on. He was rocking, like, this is an old one. And he was talking about 7 mirrors. And they all are things that it's kind of an expansion on law of attraction. And the mirror that I wasn't getting, that I just couldn't put together, was the mirror of judgment. And if we are not attracting things that we got to ask ourselves, am I attracting things that I judge? And that shook me because I was like, I do judge narcissists and liars and cheaters because I was in a toxic relationship, really bad one that I was still judging. I was still had not completely forgiven this person, or actually people, because I kept attracting it over and over because I needed to heal that. Right. And I'm like, thinking, is every guy like this? What's going on? Well, it was me. Like, talk about holistic healing. We have to look at ourselves. I needed to get to that place of forgiveness, and I needed to get to that place of having compassion. Honestly, like, that's like Gabby Bernstein has a good book called Judgment Detox. If anyone wants to look at that's very helpful with learning, like, gosh, how do we reprogram our brains? Because especially when we have all the evidence in the world to prove this is bad. These people are not nice. And, so it's like really hard not to judge when we have all the proof. So what really helped me, just a real quick thing, is really getting to that point, realizing, you know what, this person is this way for a reason, having some compassion. We're all born with a blank slate. We're babies, and something happened to these men or these women are narcissists too, they can definitely be, that made them feel they had to manipulate, gaslight people, that made them feel they had to lie, cheat, and steal to get love. So that really helps a lot, because the person that I'm not going to name names, that was really, really the long-term one for me, grew up with two narcissistic parents and really wasn't shown no role models. And it's like that we learn what we live, right? Children learn what they live. So it's just getting to that point that really helps a lot with forgiveness. And then there's some, I've always been a spiritual seeker, and I do all the things. I like trying all the modalities, and I've seen, spiritual healers and things to help with that forgiveness aspect. Cutting cords is a thing you could do. There's certain practitioners that help with that. So that would be one of the things that people get wrong.
So what was the impetus for hiding? Was it societal? There was the one person that was pressuring you. You said you lived in secret with all those other kind of addictions,
yeah.
And behind you, the food and the alcohol and all those externalities. And a lot of people didn't know that you were struggling with that stuff. Were you just kind of keeping up with those around you, and I was supposed to be strong, and that's why you didn't want to admit that step of admitting there's something wrong?
Mm-hmm. No, I love that question, and I'm glad you asked, because I was even keeping it a secret with myself. I didn't know that I was addicted. When I actually learned I was addicted, I was already a life coach, 2 years in, and I've been a life coach for 7 years. So I actually was like, I'm going to add on, because by the way, the reason I didn't know I was addicted is because I wasn't doing anything everyone I knew wasn't doing. Drinking every day. There was always people going to happy hour with me. And I would even argue that they drank more than me. I'm a tiny person, so it didn't take much for me, and it really affected my nervous system. I think in a more difficult, like harsh way than it affected some of my friends, for instance. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety. It didn't connect it to alcohol at all. Like, there's a scientific reason for that happening, by the way, where our body creates stimulants because alcohol is a depressant. So that's the natural thing. It's supposed to do that. Well, after your last drink, about 4 or 5 hours later, this depressants of the alcohol is completely gone, and you're left with all the stimulants. And that was why at 3 a.m. I'm like, and people call it anxiety and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know until I was like, I'm going to add on a niche. I'm going to help people with addiction. Those other people, not me. And I'm learning about addiction, and I'm like, holy moly. I mean, it was just way too familiar. And I think a lot of us just are clueless about what addiction really is. It's anything, not just alcohol, but anything that is affecting your life in a negative way, yet you still can't let it go. I mean, I would even say if there's something like for a week that you just can't let go of, or that you have some sort of destructive behavior. I mean, it could be shopping for some people, like shopping, spending money that they don't really have. But they want to fill that void, like, I've got this emptiness. And that's why my holistic coaching, that's why I focus on spiritual upliftment, filling that void. So you don't have that void you're trying to fill, and you're raising your vibration. And these addictions aren't such a big thing anymore because you're not trying to escape anything or fill anything up. You already are complete within yourself. So yeah, I did hide that addiction from myself. I didn't know. And I gotta say, coffee too. I quit coffee just on Easter. So how many months ago was that? Not, when was Easter? April, May, June, July, August, September. So 5 months maybe. 5 months ago. That was so difficult. Like I was shocked. And I've always had this generalized anxiety, started with in childhood, but I had no idea how much caffeine was contributing to that. And I'm in all these, I know all these spiritual people. I'm in all these groups, and somebody said, yeah, that really affects your central nervous system, and how much it changed their lives to get off of it. And I was like, first, it was a big hell no. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was not trying to get rid of coffee. I'm like, I give up alcohol, sugar, and I'm like feeling sorry for myself. I'm like it's a reward or something.
What have been some of the benefits of that post Easter?
Oh my goodness. Like I don't have the anxiety like I thought I had. Like let's say today, like before doing a podcast, I would be like, my heart was racing, I'd be freaking out. Now I'm just like cool, calm, and collected. I thought it was just part of my personality. I didn't know. You don't know until you get rid of something, right? How it was affecting you. And with alcohol, geez, like everything changed getting rid of alcohol because let's talk about it just as affecting your sleep. That affects everything right there. And it lowers your vibration. So the more I learned, and that was kind of like learning about addiction first. And then I'm like put two and two together because it is hard to tell when you have an addiction when it's so embraced by society. It's so glorified. Like I had no idea. So I put two and two together and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a lower vibrational substance. Ethanol is a poison. And I'm sitting there, I could tell it's lowering my vibration. It's self-sabotage. So I'm like, why am I doing this to myself every day? Because I would drink red wine every night. It wasn't like I'm under a bridge, drinking like alcohol out of a brown paper bag. I'm like, people are with me. We're all doing it. We would go to happy hour. It was our reward, right?
Yeah. The people that aren't doing it are the ones that are, odd or different, right?
Yep.
In
And
that
that's me now.
that situation.
Now I'm the weirdo. And it's funny. It's the only drug, and alcohol is a drug where you have to explain why you don't do it other than why you do. If like sure. I started asking people that, well, why do you drink? And they're like, oh, they don't expect that one because it's inevitable anytime I go. And I'm at that point. It's been 5 years alcohol free. And I am at that point where I can do anything, go anywhere. It doesn't faze me. And I'm honestly, when I first get to a party or something, it's, there's always a warm up phase, I still have like some social anxiety, which is why I think I started drinking in the first place as a teenager.
Sure.
Because I was like, this is the answer. Like, this is amazing. I just loved being so uninhibited. That wasn't natural for me. So I just was like, self-medication is what it is.
But now you've reached a point where you're past the avoidance stage almost, and you can be in the mix with other people that are drinking or going to a Starbucks or something and not feel the need to have a glass of wine or have a well, you still work. That's only been a couple months, so you're still working through that.
I got really tempted to have coffee the other day. I was like,
no, I mean, when you smell it like brewing, and it's like, oh man,
just the ritual,
Yeah,
having that ritual. And what I've been doing is tea instead, non-caffeinated tea.
Okay.
And like really good teas that I know all the benefits for. And that's a law of attraction thing too. Like when this tea is going to do this, then like you'll feel it more too when you're focused and concentrate on that. So I've been having fun with teas, but yeah, the coffee thing, people are like, let's go out for a drink, and I'm like, oh, I don't drink. Well, how about coffee? And I'm like, man, I sound like the lamest person ever. I swear I'm still fun, but it is tough, like, because everybody's social life revolves around drinking one or the other. And that's like, where do I fit in? Like, can we
So you said that
food?
For sure. I know, but I mean, there's a lot of clients out there, so that's one of the benefits. You said that you do the teas now and some of the benefits of that. You're kind of well versed in the law of attraction and the energy that's all around us. Do you find that do you find certain people are more open to use to manipulate or to use them in a positive way rather than just be passive members of this system of energy when you're trying to have people utilize these laws of attraction, to help themselves? Are some people more ready and more open and more capable of doing it right away? Or how can people kind of prepare themselves and open themselves up to being kind of more receptive to what you're wanting them to do? How does that work with different types of people?
No one's ever asked me that. That's a really good question. But I can tell you right away, yes, some people are so receptive and other people are like, what? They just think it's woo-woo. They think it's weird. And me growing up, there wasn't a label on it, but I just always knew. Like I was always telling people as a kid, even, I'm like, do you notice that when you think this way and you feel this way, you attract this? I was telling people this. And then that's why in 2006, one of my friends had like a party to watch The Secret. So I didn't know what it was. We went over and we watched the movie version. There's a book too, and it's all about the law of attraction. And so it's a documentary that we're watching, and I'm watching it going, holy moly, this is what I've been talking about. This is it. I just didn't know it was a thing. I just was noticing that my thoughts and my feelings were attracting things to me or repelling things from me, one or the other. So like, I just it was innate within me. But yeah, there's people who really, they almost treat it like a religion or something. They think they're fearful of it. Like, oh, that's bad. But like to me, it's just energy. It's not a religion. It's like the law of gravity. We don't decide I'm going to apply this. It's happening whether you are doing it by default or intentionally. So you might as well be intentional about it, because we have so much more control over our days than people realize. We have so much more control. And that's why that's a big reason I was like, alcohol is no longer serving me, because it's bringing me down. And I need to be at my best when I'm coaching people one-on-one. I need to be at my best. Like, I can't even justify this. I got to the point where I really knew too much in order to keep it in my life. It's too low vibrational for me. And my, raising my vibration, gosh, so much more. It's just every day is like successful now. And I mean, sure, I might get sick now and then and not be at my best, but it's so much easier to handle, like when we're not setting ourselves up for failure by having a hangover or not getting any sleep at night. It's just amazing. Another myth I wanted to bring up real quick is people think that you can, because it's a good place to put it, it doesn't mean that nothing bad ever happens to me now. That's not what it means. We can't high vibe our way out of contrast, because life just will bring us contrast. It happens. We can only control our own vibration. There's going to be bad things that happen, sad things that happen in life. Our pets die, our parents die, sad things happen. We lose jobs. What changes though, and what we can control, is our relationship to the contrast. So our reactions, in other words. So like I used to go like freak out over things, before I really understood how this worked. I would be a drama queen and make things worse and downward spiral. And it's not that I don't feel my feelings. I definitely do. Like that's something that I learned is so important, that our emotions are guidance. We need to feel them. Otherwise, they're still down there in our body, and they're going to come out as triggers. When you're in a fight with somebody, it's going to be like, oh, where'd that come from? How two grown adults get in an argument and they start sounding like toddlers, or it's like that's because they're being triggered, because they have all these emotions they hadn't dealt with from childhood. So that's really important. But it's okay when that happens. We just look at it like, oh wow, that's interesting. That's something I need to work on. That our emotions are guidance. They show us where we still have some unhealed things that we still need to deal with, instead of pushing them down, pretending like it's not there, denying it. It's we really got to make that subconscious crap. We got to bring it out into our conscious mind so we can deal with that. And so we're not living on autopilot every day, because that's what most people do, right? It's same thoughts from the day before. I think Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton, one of those, said 95% of our thoughts are the same as the day before, and then 80% of those are negative. And then people wonder why we never change. It's like we got to change, and it's even more about feelings than thoughts too, especially with the law of attraction. The universe is a feeling. We're in a feeling universe. Those emotions are, so we can't be like saying these positive affirmations but not believing what we're saying. That feeling's got to be there too, that mind body connection. Our thoughts are
Yes.
electric and our hearts are magnetic, right? That's a Joe Dispenza thing. So when we get those together, that's when we create magic and manifestations. Like that's when we have those in alignment, our heart and our mind
Yes.
connected. That's when we really are starting to manifest like fire.
Yes. And that's I will think we're calling it now like the new age, right? It's not the spiritual bypass. And actually the more we heal, the more we can maintain the higher vibration. Thank you so much for coming out and telling people about your journey with alcohol. It's funny, when I heard that you had drank for 30 years, I was thinking, did you start when you were 4? Because you look so young. So you look amazing.
Well, I'm 50, and I can tell you that I look better than I did when I was 45 when I quit drinking, because there's nothing that ages you more than alcohol.
Wow.
And I lost 20 pounds. So you guys, you don't have to have a rock bottom. I was running 2 businesses, while I was drinking. It's not like I just wanted to feel better. And of course it's in my nature. I'm a coach, I'm always like, live your best life.
Sure.
When I finally recognized that I was addicted, and like, holy moly, like I think most of us just don't know. So yeah,
also, do you find that people on a spiritual path, because they are intuitive, because they're empathic, may even have more of an inclination to drink because it does dull some of the sensations, right?
100%.
It lowers your vibration. And can you speak to, does it have a place anywhere if we're on a spiritual journey? Is it that glass of wine okay? What is your personal opinion? I know it's very personal or subjective to each person.
I think it is very personal for each person. And, you're either a moderator or an abstainer. I'm an abstainer. Like, I learned that I'm not great at stopping, even if it's food, for instance. Like, if something's good, I want more, like there's like, I think it's 25% of people is the latest stat I heard, who knows, that can actually like open a thing of cookies and just have one cookie or whatever, a reasonable amount. For me, I want to eat the whole sleeve, right? So that's personal. We need to ask ourselves, like, so I'm just better at not even getting started on the first drink, not even getting started on the cookie. Like, I'd make my son a plate of brownies and, I would eat most of them. It was awful. Like, so I just noticed I don't have that moderation. That's like, some people have like a dial where they can dial it up and down, and I'm on or off. That means I'm an abstainer. Like, I'm really good at abstaining, but I really suck once I get started. So, and I'm an all-in person, so it works out for me to be an abstainer too,
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
personal with everybody. So to answer about the spirituality, for me, I do believe personally that it's a lower vibrational substance. But if someone can enjoy a glass of wine and it doesn't lower their vibration, then that's up to them. Like, I think whatever works for people. I just think people are probably not very honest with themselves, though, because I see it. They're not honest with themselves about how much it really affects them, and that it really is a drug, and it is ethanol, which is a poison. And I think it's kind of interesting because I know a bunch of spiritual people. They won't drink tap water. They will not touch tap water. Oh no, it's got fluoride. It's going to block my third eye, yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, but you're drinking ethanol. It's like a rocket fuel, and
The irony of that, right, is
it's so ironic. And alcohol is actually a group 1 carcinogen. It's right up there with tobacco and asbestos. And it's not marketed that way, is it? No, because it's a great moneymaker.
what about one of the, not arguments, but maybe a defense that there is a high that a euphoria that some people get, right? A high, almost, it can be a clarity with some people. It can be something that, because it's kind of culturally and societally accepted, a way to get to a certain point. Well, the reasons for that vary amongst the users, but it's farther down the line. But where do you instruct people or recommend or suggest or guide people to replacing that? Where does that come from? Is it exercise? Is it, is it some sort of meditative, spiritual tool that they can use? Where do you kind of guide them towards now that there's this void, depending on how, much alcohol was part of their lives? Where do they go from there?
Great question. Yeah, we can't really get rid of an addiction without replacing it with a new addiction, honestly, a healthy one, hopefully. I became a gym rat. That's what I did. So instead of going to the happy hour, I'd go to the gym. And that's why I lost 20 pounds, right? Because I'm not taking in those empty calories and I'm working off extra calories. So like for me, I loved it. Since I have that addictive tendency, what do? I get a little bit addicted to the gym, but then I'm at a place where I'm balanced now, but it was kind of funny. It's called a cross addiction. But like meditation's huge. Like for me, because I've got kind of the monkey mind, the racing thoughts a lot. Breath work meditations worked better for me, and I still do them because I'm just better like at guided meditations and listening to breathing and focusing on like counting my breath, because it takes me out of the racing thought thing, so that's helped me a lot. Yeah, exercise, meditation, breath work, grounding, like earthing ourselves is super important. Like we never are touching the ground anymore, so you have to go out of your way to do it. Barefoot outside. I do that every morning along with some sun gazing if the sun's out. That's very helpful. It's like all of these things are part of my morning routine. A morning routine is really important. So finding it's, and this is personal because it is, some people will hate meditation, and they're not going to want to do it. You got to find what works for you. I mean, it could be finding a passion, like maybe you used to play music and you got away from it. Get back to your passions, things like that. I have this, that's what I kind of created, this deck of cards, Addiction Recovery with the Law of Attraction. This deck, it was actually downloaded to me. I was in the vortex, is what Abraham Hicks calls it. Do you guys know Abraham Hicks?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was
love it.
Highest frequency. I was like out there walking my dog in the sunshine, and this whole, like the whole idea and everything, just like my mind was actually empty for a minute, which is unbelievable. And that's called receiving mode. I was actually able to receive a download because the chatter wasn't there, and I'm in the vortex. And then I got this idea and I acted on it. That's another thing. You guys, there's no law of attraction without taking action. If people think they can just sit on a meditation cushion all day and think positive thoughts, that's not going to get you anywhere. When you will get inspired thoughts, but then what? You got to take action on them. These cards didn't make themselves. It was like a year's worth of work, to do all this and get it all together. And oh my gosh, like it's we want to get ourselves in that space of receptive mode through meditation or whatever it might be, whatever relaxes somebody to where our mind is quieted enough. It could be petting your cat, something like that. And then we receive information. I call them downloads. And that happens to everyone. I'm not special. Everybody is psychic, in my opinion. It's just who's tuned in and who's not tuned in, right? How many distractions do we have? I mean, our cell phones, you guys, cell phones, people can't receive information because they're always scrolling on their phones. Another huge addiction. And honestly, overthinking is an addiction. And it's kind of dangerous in a way, because overthinking is a form of, like, we want to control. I can control the outcome by overthinking, and it's self-sabotage. And it's also like people who are kind of perfectionists like me, they're the ones who are overthinking, and perfectionism is not good because nobody's going to be perfect ever. So you're just always setting yourself up to, feel bad and ashamed. Like, I didn't make this. So that's why I call it dangerous, because there are a lot of suicides when from people who are perfectionists, because they're never going to get there. And so they're always feel ashamed and sad and disappointed with themselves. So yeah, negative thinking, overthinking is an addiction. I mean, pornography, like there's so many addictions out there, and people laugh about pornography. Oh, everybody does it. Well, it really destroys relationships. It destroys relationships. If your partner's not okay with it and you're doing it anyway, and it not only in that way, but it tends to blur the lines. Like, what is intimacy? What is real intimacy? It's not that. It's not what you're watching. And So it really does kind of hurt things with either your current partner or maybe a future partner, where you have mixed up ideas of what, intimacy is, and you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Yes,
And also
absolutely.
on a neurobiological level, it is not good. A lot of these addictions are really messing with our natural dopamine and serotonin
Yeah.
neurotransmitters, and so it's going to take a little while. I always like, and I'm sure you do, remind your clients like it's going to take a little while, and that's one of the reasons why we need to substitute. There's a reason we're going to the alcohol or the sugar or the porn. It's because that we're missing some feeling, some good feeling, and so we need to replace it. And I do think that exercise is great because it does
Yeah.
seem to facilitate that a little more. Can you talk to how the law of attraction helps you stay away from the alcohol or the addictions, and how do you use that? Because a lot of times I think people know what they don't want,
Yeah.
they don't know what they do want. So how do they figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a journey too. And I wanted to insert here that you can't really have a spiritual awakening without a healing journey. They go hand in hand. You have to have that. Like, and that's what people don't like, is like, oh my gosh, this is actually work. And it is work, because we have to bring up that subconscious stuff that we don't want to deal with. That's why they call it shadow work. And I had to go through all of that. And I did have what I call an energetic shift, which was, actually 5 years ago. That my 50th birthday was just a little over a week ago, and that was when my 5-year sober anniversary was too. So I just knew, I just knew that I 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 was finished with it. Like, I had this energetic shift, and that's what I try to help my clients, because I feel like it's got to be almost that spiritual energetic shift, or else you're just white knuckling it. And for me, and I don't want anyone to think I'm anti AA, but for me, when it goes against everything that I personally believe, because when we say I am blank, like I am an alcoholic, I couldn't do that because I know too much about law of attraction. Like, we are in creator mode when we're saying I am. So I only say something positive after that. And I don't call myself an alcoholic. I am someone who used to have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and I no longer do. So a lot of law of attraction is making those tweaks, with your thoughts. And like, I would have stayed in my old identity if I kept, going to AA, talking about it. I talk about alcohol and on podcasts, but like my daily life, I redirect myself. Like, I'm not thinking about that. I have other better things going on than alcohol. So it's our focus. That's part of it, is our focus. That's law of attraction. I don't focus on alcohol anymore. Going to AA would make me that way, where I'd have to think about it. I'm just no longer that person who ordered red wine every night. That's it. By the way, I'm saving a lot of money, you guys. Like, I mean, that's so funny.
Another benefit, right?
Another benefit. Like, I couldn't believe the difference in my restaurant bills, because the markup's so crazy there. And I was like, oh. There's an app you can even use if you're thinking of quitting, or at least try it 30 day. At least try it 30 days
Sure.
and see how you feel. And
Yeah.
but Tara, what you said about that is it takes time. There is, like, I'd almost say try 3 months before you say before you throw in the towel, because I mean, it depends how long you drank too. I had 3 months of being like kind of still brain foggy because of all, like, we're doing damage. We're doing damage to our DNA. We're doing damage on a cellular level. So it's like, you can't just bounce back. I was feeling better, but I'm going to say it took me 3 months to really get like to where, man, I feel amazing. Like, where I could, and then there's stuff you want to do. You want to take supplements because alcohol depletes you of a lot of nutrients. We're not really absorbing nutrients when we're drinking alcohol. So,
Awesome. You talked about the support system that AA provides, but a broader law of attraction energy. For the uninitiated, they heard about The Secret, they heard about Burn, they heard about The Power. Maybe they vaguely remember the movie, seen the book around, they're hearing this. We share the podcast. So they start to begin that journey. How important is it to have a partner or someone with you that is kind of open and receptive to the energy, and this may seem a bit unique or outside of their comfort zone, right? There's people that are, especially as they get older, a little bit resistant to some of these things that they may not have known about growing up. Like you said, we
Yeah.
live what we learn what we live. So how important is that? Is that critical to have a girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse that is ready to go on the journey with you and start the transformation? And if so, how can you open up their mind as somebody that maybe is not a coach or someone that's learned and kind of experienced? What can a normie or someone that's not initiated yet do to open someone else's mind and just get them to start thinking about some of these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've had some of the most powerful manifestations when I'm with somebody, like when and who's also knows how to deliberately create their manifest. So I do think there's power in that, in numbers, and to have someone, but we don't all attract the same. So there's also, like, you don't want to compare yourself. That's a little game. There's something that's really important called our point of attraction. And it's the reason why people are like, the law of attraction, they might even believe it, but they believe it works for other people, but it doesn't work for me, which is a limiting belief, right? It works for everyone exactly the same. It's just that we can only manifest within our own personal belief system, which is going to be different for everyone. And I'll tell you what that consists of. That's all of our childhood programming from the day we were born. That's number one. So that's the first part of our point of attraction. Then we have a momentum, and our momentum is going to be different on different subjects. Like, for a long time, I had a great momentum financially, attracting money. It's always come easy for me. But my momentum with relationship sucked. Why? Because of my past, because of, I hadn't forgiven or any of those things. Then it's also the part three to that would be, how do you feel right now? So you could see if your subconscious programming from the day you were born is involved in your point of attraction, you're not going to be the same as anybody else. It's so individual. And that's where people get really confused. Then they think it doesn't work for me. Usually it's just that they haven't done the work, that they haven't really looked at their childhood programming. And that's kind of what a lot of my coaching is about, is I'm helping people, pull that out, figure out, like, what limiting beliefs, what do I keep telling myself from, what stuff is, a lot of it's from childhood, a lot of it's from past relationships, and, really bringing that to the surface so that we can heal it, get over it, and then start manifesting, what we really want, instead of, because it's interesting, because the definition of subconscious is we're not aware of it, right? So that's why it's the hardest thing for people to see is themselves. That's why having a coach or a friend or somebody, who's really into it's very helpful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I liked the law of attraction, and then I learned all the other laws of the universe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much more there. So
Many.
I can see where in the West, in America, it's the external things that we want with law of attraction, and then you get that and you're like, oh wait, that's not fulfilling me. So I think that's amazing, and thank you so much for doing this work. Can you tell us a little bit more about the cards and some of your offerings?
Sure. So my cards you can get them on my website, day1lifecoaching.com, and it's DAYONE, not the number one. And basically they have all of the techniques that I used. That's why I think this idea got downloaded to me. It's because it's everything that I used in order to quit alcohol. And then every card, it's actually published as a book. I independently published them because I didn't want anyone to change it, because when I wrote them, it was like automatic writing. It's all original artwork, and that's what took a long time, is I had to have this certain artist, and I waited for her, and each card I told her what I wanted, and she took these images out of my mind. It was pretty magical. It was like exactly what I was. So it's all original artwork, and on the back of each card is going to have the content. So each morning you pick a card. So it's kind of like one day at a time, and a little spiritual twist. And you're always going to get the card that's you're meant to have that day. And they are going to teach you the law of attraction. They're uplifting. You're going to get instructions for the day to focus on. So that's going to be your focus of the day. And some people have told me that they stick with a card for a while, a week or so, They want to master it before they move on to picking a new card. So however you want to do it. So I've had people read every card like a book, just read them all because they wanted to get all the information in there. So basically it teaches you law of attraction, and it also is you pick one daily, so that you have a focus away from your addiction. Like my favorite card is serve others, because I really believe like that was the most important for me, like, and
Yeah.
I get to do that for a living now, I get to serve others, it's there's nothing better. But you get out of your own head when you do like volunteer work or, do something for other people, and get out of your head. You really, these addictions do start to fall away over time, because all that stuff raises your vibration. And you start to see how, I don't want to call it silly, but empty it was, that you're like, the main thing you're looking forward to in your day is happy hour, right? Like, oh no, now I'm doing something, I'm helping other people. It's so much more fulfilling. So you don't constantly have that empty void to fill.
Yes.
That's excellent. Normally, one of the things that I love to ask about is we do like to provide our listeners a hint, tip, trick, technique, strategy to get that they can use before they can connect with an excellent coach or learn a coach like yourself, or when they're by themselves, when they're struggling, just to get started. I find that the biggest block that a lot of our audience has is just kind of getting started. So a two-parter. One, as far as an individual goes, what can they do to just initially start raising their vibration or shifting their energy just before they've even begun any of these practices? What is something maybe they could do on their own to get that started? And then the second thing would be, there's, couples out there listening. If you're in a relationship, what can they do? There's ups and downs in relationships all the time. What's one thing that you recommend to get that kind of joint vibration, that couple energy going in the right direction, or lifting together? So something for the individual maybe, and then something for those that are in relationships.
So self-awareness, for the first one, we just being mindful and paying attention, because it's really crazy, how many people don't pay attention to their own thoughts. And it sounds so basic and simple, but that's where it starts, is just paying attention to, what am I thinking? How am I reacting? Most of us are going around having knee-jerk reactions, and we're just not paying attention. And stop scrolling so much on your phone. Try to just be that's a very simple one. And I think it probably applies to everybody, including myself. Like I literally have had to put my phone in another room sometimes, because I still have addiction tendencies, but I got to catch myself. So I would say that self-awareness is catching yourself in the act, catching yourself when you're thinking negative thoughts, and like trying to, there's nothing wrong with negative thoughts. We grow from everything. It's okay. We all have them. I still have them, but I sit there and I examine it, and like, that's interesting. Like there, because it's always something like unhealed in us, like I said earlier. So it's like we want to like take a look at it. Remember, you are not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're the witness. So just observe them and be like, wonder why, I was just saying, catching yourself and being self-aware, and then trying to figure out where that originated. Like, why did I have that reaction? There must be something that I need to work on. So, and never get mad at yourself. These are just, everybody gets triggered, and just understand it's part of the process. So, and your other question was relationships. I'm going to say self-awareness again, because we need to check ourselves sometimes. It's very comfortable for us to blame our partner for the way we feel, right? And instead of taking accountability for our feelings, our emotions, our reactions. So I think self-awareness again. And I think, I really love teaching conscious relationships, because a lot of people are just in toxic patterns and they don't even realize it, and it's actually another addiction, is getting.
Can you differentiate for us, what the compare and contrast toxic relationship versus a conscious relationship?
Yeah, so a toxic relationship is going to be very reactive. It's going to feel like you're on a roller coaster ride. It's going to feel unpredictable. You're going to have a lot of passion, but it's can be also, you get a lot of dopamine hits. That's what I was going to say. It's very addictive, because you do get dopamine hits, and it's actually interesting if you're used to that, and then you're in a healthy relationship, you can actually feel pretty bored. You're like, something's wrong, because you're like, where's my dopamine hit? You don't realize that's what it is, but it's There's a lot of jealousy in the toxic ones, mistrust and drama, a lot of drama. And in a conscious relationship, the main idea is that both people are willing and able to have healthy communication, help each other grow. You're going to uplift each other. The toxic one might feel more like you're with your enemy sometimes, and the healthy one, you should feel like you're with your best friend and you're uplifting each other. And there's not this I'm not saying you never get jealous, but let's say you do. You talk it out. You say, hey, you actually, you don't be a people pleaser. You speak up for yourself when you're feeling some kind of way. And if you're with someone who's healthy, they're not going to gaslight you and shame you for your feelings. You're going to work it out together. It doesn't mean there's no problems. It doesn't mean there's no arguments, but the arguments will look very different,
And I have one more question. You're very well read, and we probably have a lot of similar books in our library.
Probably.
But can you share one for our audience that was, really pivotal for you? Something, a game changer, be it an Esther Hicks or a Power of Now or whatever yours might be.
Because of the topic, I'm going to say Alcohol Explained by William Porter. Because if anyone's watching this and they're really thinking I would start to read books about because I was surprised. That was one of the books I read when I was getting my addiction recovery niche, my certification in that. And I was like, whoa, I knew it was bad for your liver, I was like, this probably isn't good, but I had no idea. There was just so much stuff in there that once you know it, you can't really unknow it, if that makes sense. And then, so it's kind of makes it a game changer for me, at least. Also The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton is a really good one. So those two are the first ones that pop in my head. I could probably list a lot, but I've read so many books. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sure Brian has another question for you, but I just wanted to say thank you so much again. And I would love to connect with you again. Love to have you back. We could talk a little more woo and some manifestation and some vortex and some alignment.
Yeah, we could get into way more woo-woo. We could get into my spiritually transformative experience I had when I was 18. That's a good one. That's a whole nother episode, though.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds like a standalone special episode.
It is.
We're working our audience up to these higher vibe ones. So
that's a journey too.
For sure. Well, Mary Beth, thank you so much. DayOneLifeCoaching.com. Can you give us a little bit behind the curtain, a trailer, a preview of what people can expect to find when they go there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to offer your audience a coupon code if they want to purchase either my essential oils that are made to raise your vibration or the addiction recovery cards. I'll put a coupon code, Your One Self. Is that good? Your One Self, all one
That's
word.
perfect.
Thank you.
So I'll put a coupon code for your audience. It'll be $10 off. And then I also, on my website, it's a little bit about me and my journey. And I offer one-on-one coaching. So what I do is a free discovery call for anyone who's interested in coaching, but they're not really sure. And then it's just a free Zoom call with me personally. And we just kind of see, hey, are we a good match? Is coaching right for you? And I explain all that to you. And it's really, if you're stuck in life, if you feel like you have a self-destructive habit, I help people a lot with their life path. They just don't know what they want to do. They just feel stagnant. So we do a lot of career stuff. I have started 2 businesses. So I do help a lot of people with that. Limiting beliefs is a huge one. So just like if you are relationships, what I've been getting a lot of lately is people who are stuck in that toxic relationship cycle. I love helping people with that because that one's going to be more one-on-one, not couples, because really the way to get out of that is to heal the relationship with yourself. So that's what we work on. And I'm very familiar with everything I teach because I only teach things that I've been through and healed from. So if I'm teaching it, I know what I'm talking about. So I definitely had to go through that journey.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. The authenticity and your genuine nature really comes across, and I think our listeners, which we always like to thank at the end of every episode, really have gotten a lot of tips, strategies, and techniques, and just a whole new way to get started. Everything from the mornings that you're going to take back, and the grounding, and the sun gazing, and getting out now. The addiction with positive habits now. Absolutely. The book recommendations, the website, the discount, we couldn't be more grateful, and we really appreciate having you on. So let's definitely do this again.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's Mary Beth Schrudder, and you've been listening to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to youroneself.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.